This is a partial list of booksellers in Boston, Massachusetts. Booksellers in Boston. 17th century. John Allen, William Avery, Joseph Browning, A.K.A. Joseph Browning, Court Street, Nicholas Butolph, Duncan Campbell, James Cowse, John Dunton, Benjamin Eliot, State Street, John Foster, Obadiah Gill, John Griffin, Benjamin Harris, Cornhill, Vavasour Harris, Elkanah Pembroke, Michael Perry, Samuel Phillips, Edmund Ranger, John Ratcliffe, Samuel Sewell, Andrew Thorncombe, Hezekiah Usher, John Usher, James Wade, Richard Wilkins, 18th century, John Amory, Andrew Barclay, Ebenezer Battle, Nathaniel Belknap, Caleb Blanchard, Doc Square, Joshua Blanchard, Nicholas Boone, Nicholas Bowes, John Boyles, Coxon Berry, Caleb Bingham, John Boydell, George Brownell, Alfred Butler Jr., John Campbell, John Checkley, James Foster Condie, Jeremy Condie, Coxon Berry, Edward Cox, Edward Berry, T. Cox, Michael Dennis, John Edwards, Joseph Edwards, A. Ellison, Benjamin Eliot, John Eliot, Samuel Eliot, John Fleming, 1760s-1770s, John W. Folsom, Union Street, Hopestall Foster, Philip Freeman, Richard Fry, Samuel Gerrish, Daniel Gookon, Nathaniel Gookon, Benjamin Gray, William Gray, Benjamin Guild, 1780s-1790s, Thomas Hancock, Charles Harrison, Daniel Henchman, Cornhill, John Hodgson, William Lang, John Langdon, Samuel Neeland, Henry Knox, London Bookstore, John Langdon, Benjamin Larkon, Cornhill, Ebenezer Larkin, Cornhill, Thomas Leverett, Bennett Love, Walter McAlpine, William McAlpine, John Mine, London Bookstore, William Miller, Rivington and Miller, London Bookstore, John Parker, William Pelham, Bookseller, John Pemberton, John Perkins, Joanna Perry, King Street, Eliza Phillips, A.K.A. Eleazar Phillips, Guillaume Phillips, John Phillips, William Phillips, Nathaniel Proctor, Thomas Rand, James Rivington, London Bookstore, Samuel Robinson, Ezekiel Russell, Samuel Sewell, Jr., Francis Skinner, Joseph Snelling, William Spotswood, Robert Starkey, Samuel Webb, David West, Wharton and Bowes, John Wharton, Nicholas Bowes, James White, Court Street, Timothy White, Joshua Winter, 19th century, Joseph F. Ellsworth, Crosby and Ellsworth, Samuel T. Armstrong, Cornhill, N. J. Bartlett, William Blagrove, Boston Bookstore, Boston Chart and Nautical Bookstore, Custom House Street, Charles L. Blake, Robert A. Blake, Leonard C. Bowles, Cornhill, Osmond Brewster, Crocker and Brewster, George W. Briggs, Washington Street, Oliver L. Briggs & Co., Brown, Taggart and Chase, Cornhill, Joseph Bumstead, State Street, James W. Burdett, Court Street, Burnham and Brothers, Cornhill, Thomas Burnham, Cornhill, James Campbell, Tremont Street, George Clark, Dock Square, Otis Clapp, School Street, Beacon Street, Daniel C. Colesworthy, George W. Cottrell, Cornhill, Crosby and Nichols, Washington Street, William Crosby, Washington Street, Cummings, Hilliard & Co., Cornhill, Robert S. Davis, Washington Street, R. S. Davis & Co., P. Stearns Davis, William H. Dennett, Washington Street, Oliver Ditson, Patrick Donahoe, Franklin Street, Esters and Laureate, Oliver Everett, Cornhill, Charles Ewer, Cornhill, Fady Hen & Co., Charles Thacker, William Pembroke Thetridge, Fields, Osgood and Company, William B. Fowle, Cornhill, Patrick Kevin Foley, A. K. A. P. K. Foley, Bromfield Street, James French, Washington Street, Richard L. Fry, Horace B. Fuller, M. H. Gorkin, Edwin H. Gill, Charles Goodspeed, Park Street, Charles D. Gould, Gould and Lincoln, Andrew F. Graves, Cornhill, Benjamin H. Green, Oliver C. Greenleaf, Court Street, William H. Halliday and Co., Cornhill, Mrs. Mary Hickey, High Street, Hickling, Swan and Brewer, Washington Street, Thomas M. Brewer, Henry Hoyt, Lemuel N. Ide, Washington Street, John P. Jewett, Cornhill, David P. King, Washington Street, Charles Laureate, Joshua Lincoln, Gould and Lincoln, Little, Brown and Co., Augustus Flagg, Littlefields, Cornhill, James Loring, Cornhill, Washington Street, Josiah Loring, South Row, Bella Marsh, Hugh MacDonald, Washington Street, George M. Merriam, Newbury, Washington, St. Israel Moody, Washington Street, B. B. Mussey, Cornhill, Munro and Francis, Edmund Munro, David Francis, Court Street, Cornhill, Sam F. Nichols, Nichols and Hall, Old Corner Bookstore, Washington and School Street, James R. Osgood and Co., Washington Street, E. Libby, James A. G. Otis, Washington Street, Samuel H. Parker, Elizabeth Palmer Peabody, West Street Bookstore, Oliver L. Perkins, Cornhill, James M. Piper, William J. Reynolds and Co., Cornhill, Benjamin B. Russell, Washington Street, Francis S. Saxton, State Street, Schernhoff and Moeller, Carl Schernhoff, Fanny Moeller, Nathaniel S. Simpkins, Brattle Street, George A. Snow, Snow, Boyden and Knight, C. C. Soule, William V. Spencer, Charles Stimpson, Washington Street, Strong and Brodhead, Cornhill, Swedenborg and Bookstore, Tremont Street, Tappan and Whitmore, Washington Street, Joseph Teal, Hanover Street, William P. Tewksbury, Washington Street, Ticknor and Fields, John B. Tileston, Brewer and Tileston, Abel Tompkins, Cornhill, John Turner, William Vesey, John X. Watson, Thomas Wells, Hanover Street, Wells and Lilly, William Wells and Robert Lilly, Court Street, Henry White, Rev. Thomas Whitmore, Cornhill, John K. Wigan, Wigan and Lunt, 20th Century, J. Q. Adams and Co., Avenue Victor Hugo, Newbury Street, E. E. Babb and Co., Walter H. Baker and Co., N. J. Bartlett and Co., C. E. Beale, F. W. Bird, Boston Book Co., John A. Boyle and Co., Budden Brooks, Burnham's Antique Bookstore, Richard C. Lichtenstein, William A. Butterfield, H. M. Caldwell Co., H. H. Carter and Co., Theo. H. Coster and Co., W. B. Clark Co., William G. Colesworthy, C. James Connolly, H. M. Connor, Curtis and Cameron, Couples and Schernhoff, De Wolfe and Fisk Co., Eaton and Maines, Dana Esters and Co., Thomas J. Flynn, Patrick Kevin Foley, A. K. A. P. K. Foley, Beacon Street, Four Seas Company, Copley Square, Gardenside Bookshop, Boylston Street, Ginn and Co., Globe Corner Bookstore, Goodspeed's Bookshop, J. L. Hammett Co., Mrs. H. L. Hastings, D. C. Heath & Co. F. C. Herrick. Copley Square. Home Library and Supply Association. Houghton and Dutton. Houghton. Mifflin & Co. Park Street. George W. Humphrey. Jordan Marsh. Keeps Bookstore. Columbus Ave. E. L. Kellogg & Co. Knight and Millett. Columbus Ave. C. A. Cooler & Co. Laureates. Washington Street. A. A. Lewis. Hanover Street. C. F. Libby. Little. Brown & Company. George E. Littlefield. Cornhill. Lee Lothrop & Shepherd. A. D. McLaughlin. Bertha Mahoney. Mutual Book Co. Franklin Street. A. J. Oxco. Boston Neck Bookstore. Washington Street. Old Corner Bookstore. Bromfield Street. Pitts Kimball Co. George H. Polly. Court Street. John A. Ryan. Brattle Street. Smith and McCants. Bromfield Street. South End Bookstore. Washington Street. Waterstones. R. H. White & Co. Women's Educational and Industrial Union. Bookshop for Boys and Girls. 21st Century. A.R.'s Library. Harrison Ave. Barnes & Noble. F. A. Burnett Books. Borders. Boston Book Company. Brattle Bookshop. West Street. Bromer Booksellers. Boylston Street. Budden Brooks. Newbury Street. Commonwealth Books. James F. O'Neill. Lucy Parsons Center. Columbus Ave. Peter L. Stern & Co. Trident Booksellers. Newbury Street. Sources. 17th century. Isaiah Thomas. History of Printing in America. 2nd ed. 1874. George Emery Littlefield. 1900. Early Boston Booksellers 1642–1711. Boston. The Club of Odd Volumes. OCLC 3,573,345. Google Books. George Emery Littlefield. The Early Massachusetts Press. 1638–1711. Boston. Club of Odd Volumes. 1907. Worthington Chauncey Ford. The Boston Book Market. 1679–1700. Boston. Club of Odd Volumes. 1917. 18th century. Boston Directory. 1789. Isaiah Thomas. History of Printing in America. 2nd ed. 1874. Henry Knox, bookseller. Proceedings of the Massachusetts Historical Society. 3rd series. Volume 61. June 1928. p. 227 plus. 19th century. Boston Directory. 1823. Boston Directory. 1849. Boston Directory. 1858. Boston Directory. 1868. Sargent. Laureates. 1872–1922. Being a Sketch of Early Boston Booksellers. 1922. 20th Century. James Clegg. International Directory of Booksellers and Bibliophiles Manual. 1906. Library Thing. Boston Listings. Chuck Whiting. ed. Quote. Boston. Quote. Biblioephemera, via Blogspot.